Tonight on Joy News Prime, new study shows implementation of the 3% withholding tax regime in the gold export trade is proving to be a failure. We have details of the survey, even as the Ghana Airport Company also reacts to the Joy News documentary on the smuggling of gold through the country's airport with the connivance of politically connected persons. Finance Minister designate defends government's handling of the Ejapa mineral royalties deal and describes a report by the former special prosecutor on the transaction as a disservice to the country.
For such a report to be put out to the public without us or myself as Minister of Finance having a chance to discuss it, I think is a disservice to our democracy.
We bring you more from the vetting, which has been suspended until Friday. The Education Minister has also been speaking about recent controversies in the education sector.
Speaker, I can assure you that Ghana Education Service, within the shortest possible time, is going to lay out specific guidelines for head of schools as to how we proceed in this environment.
In business, the Finance Minister has justified Ghana's rising debt situation amid concerns of overborrowing and wider government expenditure.
The fact of the matter is that when you read the document, the fiscals, you would know what our debt liabilities are.
We have frightening statistics on the number of motorcycle-related deaths. My name is Israel. Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our Father for studios at Kokomilimli here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Stay tuned in. Finance Minister designate Ken Ofori-Atta has defended the process his ministry took with regard to the procurement process on the Ejapa deal. Speaking before the Appointments Committee of Parliament Thursday, Mr. Ofori-Atta said the former Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu releasing a corruption and anti-corruption risk assessment report of the transaction without discussing it with the appropriate quarters was a disservice to the country's democracy. He dismissed suggestions of conflict of interest as far as data bank's involvement in the controversial Ejapa deal is concerned.
Or your policy is to reintroduce the Ejapa royalties deal. Can you give us the assurance that is seeking to appoint transaction advisors in the future? You would be compliant with Article 1815 of the Constitution and the decision in Attorney General versus Faro Atlantic Company Limited.
Mr. Chairman, I think I mentioned a fundamental flaw in the approach that the OSP took with regards to whether he gave us a chance to respond or not. And I think that should be of keen interest to this House as just a rule of law. And so to then go on to accept, acknowledge a document in which your citizens were not able to give their views on that, I think it's something that we should not encourage. I do not feel that we broke any rule, and I think the AG will be able to give you a firm assessment of that. Really, there's quite a bit of cynicism with that transaction. And for me, for the House, for such a report to be put out to the public without us or myself as Minister of Finance having a chance to discuss it, I think is a disservice to our democracy. And that is such a fundamental right that I think we all as a people should be careful about such things. And so the speculative issues and the risk associated with most transactions, discussions by resubmitting to Parliament would enable us to work those things out so that it is. But we should also note, I mean, beyond that, that, and the reason why I brought the act up was the act was well debated and put into motion. I think risks are part of every investment that you make. Parliament gives me the honors to go and raise bonds. So Parliament gives me the mandate to raise $2-3 billion with all sorts of risk. And so far, these 3 years, we have brought the best pricing that the country or comparable countries could enjoy. I do not know why that type of performance will then not reflect in the way in which that report was put.
Is that the government is working on sealing judgment debt leakages and the impact it has on the economy. Government, he says, has tried very hard to renegotiate after the court judgment. We apologize for that mix-up there. We will bring you that soundbite. But on the LGBTQ debate and reports that donor partners are tying it to aid, Ken Ofori-Atta indicated the Akufo-Addo government will not accept any financial assistance if it comes with that condition.
The U.S. and other Western nations have made recognition of LGBTQI rights as some of the conditions under which support will be granted to such nations. As the man who follows up on every negotiation that the President makes on issues of our support, what is your take on this conditionality by the Western nations in order to advance support and aid to a country like Ghana?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'm not clear that it's been established as a conditionality. But truly, I mean, for example, if you look at the decision the President took with regards to termination of PDS, in which $190 million therefore had to be left on the table. I think our sociology and our traditions are the most important enduring legacy that we have. And so we'll make decisions that suit our Ghanaian purpose so that we can develop in the way we want to develop.
Let's now hear what he had to say, the finance minister had to say about judgment debts.
Acceptable growing of judgment debts, all of it occasioned by an act of omission or commission on behalf of ministers of state. They commit the state and then abrogate contracts. The phenomena of judgment debt. What do you intend to do about that as Minister for Finance should you get confirmed? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think, you know, as a corollary to the expenditure commitment issue would be a situation where you don't even get there because it can't even come through. But even with judgment debts, I think we have tried very hard to even renegotiate after the court's judgment. So yes, it's a leakage that we are very aware of and would like to blunt.
Right, the finance minister also spoke about a number of things, including PDS and what government is doing about it. He indicated that government hasn't abandoned the idea of bringing in private sector participation in the ECG or run management of ECG. He also indicated we introduced some taxes this year to see whether we can close the gap between what ECG pays and the tariffs that they get. He also talked about the banking sector, and he said he thought the confidence in the banking sector is better than yesterday. Akufo-Addo's vision of adding value to all of our natural resources is the way to go. And then he said there are a number of things that we are trying to do to protect the public purse. Vetting of the finance minister designate continues on Friday. In other news, implementation of the 3% withholding tax by the Ghana Revenue Authority has been described as a failure by the Africa Center for Energy Policy, citing a study it conducted. According to the study, 95% of small-scale miners sampled said they never received tax certificates for the 3% withholding tax retained by gold buyers. This comes on the heels of a leaked document from the Precious Minerals Marketing Company revealing that since the introduction of 3% withholding tax, the purchase and export of gold has been on the decline. It also follows a Joy News documentary which revealed widespread smuggling of gold with the connivance of politically connected persons. My colleague Emefa Apau joins me with details of the PMMC document. Emefa, I know you are online, but I'll come to you shortly. Let's first take a look at the study by ASAP with Executive Director Ben Boakye. Thank you very much, Mr. Boakye. What do you say about the 3% withholding tax regime and why you say it has been a failure?
Thank you for having me. I think that the challenge we identified at the time was that you are seeking to tax a regime that you didn't really take time to understand, and therefore it was unlikely that GRA was going to realize the imposition of the 3% withholding tax. And our caution at the time was that if they went ahead to impose the tax, it's going to be a further incentive for those who were already into smuggling and already underreporting their output to the authorities to deepen that. So we thought it wasn't the right approach because GRA has no way of establishing output for which you will be able to apply the 3% withholding tax. So our conversation really was trying to understand what the challenges were from the perspective of the miners, and also look at the challenges that we could identify to be impeding the state's ability to collect taxes from the small-scale sector. And we realized that if you couldn't account for outputs, you didn't have any mechanism to ensure that you can track output, and coupled with the porous border and the fact that these gold merchants could move the products out of Ghana and export from there, you were only chasing what was impossible to actually collect. So we proposed that instead of taking a 3% withholding tax, just issue a flat rate postage stamp of 500, which the miners had actually agreed to pay to GRA at the time. If you did that, that allowed you to get data from the miners on how much they actually produce. And that also informs policy on what to do to actually benefit from the small-scale sector. But the engagement with GRA didn't yield much, and they persisted in imposing the 3% withholding tax. So we are not surprised that it has contributed to massive evasion, and PMMC is struggling today because nobody wants to sell to them, but rather sell to other gold dealers who may be able to smuggle the product out of the country.
Right. One of the other things you found out was that about 95% of the small-scale miners you sampled said even though they had paid the withholding tax or had been retained by the people they sold their gold to, they never received receipts. How does that relate to the failure of the system?
No, anybody who pays withholding tax is supposed to get certification from GRA to say that, yes, we have received your deductions from the person who deducted the money. But these gold miners never followed up to get their withholding tax certificates, and the gold buyers also never bothered to really do that. And what was even intriguing is that in most cases, the gold buyers don't even issue the withholding certificate. They will tell you whether you want withholding. If you say yes, that comes at a different price. If you don't want withholding, it comes at a different price. So right. For many of the gold producers, they prefer to go without withholding tax. But the few that were paying, about 95% of them never got withholding tax. So what that could also meant was that some of the buyers would take the withholding tax, but may never pay to
GRA. But could it also be, as you indicated, that most of these small-scale miners never followed up with the GRA? Could it be that the GRA may have issued the certificates, but they never picked them up?
So GRA issues a certificate to the one who deducted the withholding. So the gold buyers are supposed to be the ones to send the certificate to the gold producers. So if the buyers are not sending the withholding tax, or they are not following up with GRA on its own doesn't issue the certificate unless you go for it.
Right.
So they are supposed to issue a certificate to the gold buyers, and they would send a certificate to the gold producers. But because the gold buyers were not demanding the certificates, it was never issued to them. And chances are, if you are not demanding, we just keep it and not pay to GRA. And it shows that not much revenue is actually collected from the small-scale mining sector. If you check gold taxes, it's largely the large-scale miners who are paying the taxes. So it tells you that even though the small-scale constitutes about 50% of our gold output, we are not able to tax as much as we tax the large-scale miners.
Now, how do you also explain the link between gold export and money laundering as captured in the study?
Yes, so every gold that you export, you are supposed to account for that export and repatriate the proceeds to Ghana. And it is by law. Bank of Ghana requires that gold exports are accounted for and the proceeds are repatriated. But what some of these merchants that we have in this country do is that they engage the gold buyers and they give them cedis from their operations in Ghana to buy the gold. And then in return, they take the dollar offshore. So it is difficult for GRA to track how goods are imported into the country and how much those goods actually are worth, because you don't see transfers moving through the banks for you to be able to track the cash transfers that are made to foreign accounts for the importation of goods. So you can't track that. GRA doesn't have the system to be able to track that once they go through the gold channel. So most of them do that. They buy the gold through the gold buyers, and then they take the dollar offshore and they bring in imported goods, sell it, and then the cycle continues. So that's how they trade. And it's an area that GRA will have to really look into to ensure that that practice actually stops. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to tax appropriately.
All right. Thank you very much, Ben Boakye. Ben Boakye is with the Africa Center for Energy Policy. Now, I also indicated MFA Powell is on the line with us. And MFA, so it turns out the Precious Minerals Marketing Company has had cause to complain to the Finance Ministry over the 3% withholding tax on the gold trade, correct? But we have a response from the Ghana Airport Company on the Joy News documentary, which showed that quite a bit of smuggling is taking place through the country's airports with the connivance of politically connected persons. Kweku Asante joins me via Zoom with excerpts of the letter from the Ghana Airport Company. Now, Kweku, give us the details of the involvement of airport officials in the illegal export of gold.
Right, Israel. So the Ghana Airport Company Limited admits that there have been instances where airport staff have been arrested, where such cases have been duly investigated, and those found guilty have been punished in line with internal disciplinary procedures. Although they do not go into details of the specific ways that some of these airport staff go on and assess these people who smuggle the gold, they say that some of these people have already been dealt with, and they are ensuring that in the coming days, some of these things will not happen again, Israel.
Deal with that situation.
Right, so they say that the procedures for exporting bullion at the airport are quite comprehensive, but there are, however, some systems that have been put in place to ensure that continuous improvement in the delivery of the chain system. And so they are saying that they are on top of the issue, and they are, as it were, recalibrating the systems at the airport to ensure that there's a comprehensive system in place to be able to check some of these things, Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Kweku Asante. With that update from the Ghana Airport Company, co-chair of the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Dr. Steve Mantia, meanwhile, says the actual amount of gold smuggled is a lot more than was unearthed in the Joy News documentary and wants the matter thoroughly investigated.
the Swiss ambassador to Ghana had also indicated that in that particular year, Ghana imported, the Swiss government, Switzerland actually imported gold from Ghana worth about $7 billion.
Jesus.
You compare that to Bank of Ghana records, and what we officially reported was less than $2 billion. And so when the president subsequently indicated that the UAE had also quoted figures that were way above what is officially recorded, I became concerned. In fact, the Ghana Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, way back in 2004, discovered that the production from the small-scale sector, the artisanal and small-scale mining sector, was growing. In fact, at the time, it had reached about a third of total gold production in this country.
Dr. Steve Mantia also indicated the nation can deal with the canker by mandating a single entity to carry out exports, as it's done for cocoa.
Better regulate the trade in gold. And we have an example to follow in the cocoa sector. We have licensed private buyers, but these private buyers cannot export the cocoa. There is only one entity in this country that can export cocoa, and that is Cocoa Board. So it helps us to better account for the volumes that we ship in the sector. The same way, if we regulate it better and get PMMC to be the sole agent to export gold in this country, we'll be able to better account for our gold exports.
Right, so the Precious Minerals Marketing Company has actually had cause to complain that there's been a decline in the amount of gold that is exported following the implementation of the 3% withholding tax regime. Now, MFA Powell is back on the line now. MFA, so what exactly has the Precious Minerals Marketing Company had to say about this?
So like you said, they've written to the finance ministry about this 3% withholding tax that we've been talking about. They say that it's become a major issue of concern among PMMC stakeholders, including foreign and local gold buyers who patronize their laboratory. So they add that the traders make meager profit after paying that withholding tax. And this has begun affecting government revenue, and that's according to the PMMC. So the document also indicates that since the introduction of the 3% tax on the gold purchase and export, the operations of PMMC has seen a downward dive. The exporters are complaining that they are not getting the commodities to buy because the producers are selling their commodities to those who do not demand the 3% withholding tax. Now, this development also means that government is losing revenue as the gold producers and buyers are either storing or smuggling their commodities through illegal routes. Now, meanwhile, the Ghana airport, like you've been saying, confirms that some of its officials have in the past been doing this. So that's the concern of the PMMC when it comes to this 3% withholding tax that has been introduced by the GRA without the consent of those who are supposed to be their stakeholders. All
right, thank you very much, MFA Apau. You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break. At this point, we have more news coming your way. To stay tuned in.
You're welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aichi. The Finance Minister designate Ken Ofori-Atta has justified Ghana's rising debt situation amid concerns of overborrowing and a wider government expenditure. Taking his turn at the appointment committee in Parliament for his vetting, the Finance Minister designate explained that COVID-19 and external shocks give more reason for government to consider ensuring stability.
The fact of the matter is that when you read the document, the fiscals, you would know what our debt liabilities are, and that is a fact. The question for any nation, is to determine how best we manage this. It's not, and we had argued with the international community that this is a special event, and until such time as we know the full cost of it, we are not going to add it together. We have moved to a point, as I've explained to you, that we are going to do, but never was it not disclosed.
Chairman, when you say you don't know, in both your budget 2020-2021, you attribute 21 billion as responsible. Why are you not adding that to total debt? It is known and is disclosed. What liability is it? And whose liability is it? We need to know.
Mr. Chairman, I think we could go on through this ad nauseum. The question is, was this disclosed? And it was disclosed. Could you add up to come to a summary? You will be able to add up to come to a summary.
So our position is that it's disclosed but not added.
Is there a new normal? There's a new normal. Have I told you how we are going to be doing it? And I've told you that once we are clear on that by the third quarter or fourth quarter, that will be normalized.
From that, the Canadian government has announced a 30 million Canadian dollar project that's equivalent to 138 million cedis to support 4 innovative projects over a period of 4 to 5 years. 31,000 Ghanaian women across the country are expected to benefit directly from the funding. Let's listen to the Canadian High Commissioner to Ghana, Kati Chaba.
Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie so aptly wrote, "Masculinity is a hard, small cage, and we put boys inside this cage." I know that there are no easy answers to these issues, which are among the root causes of gender inequality, but I am proud that each of the projects being launched today will contribute to improving our understanding of these challenges and help us to overcome these barriers, one step at a time. These projects will give us an opportunity to explore new approaches for women's economic inclusion together, from today's learning sessions on business development and access to finance, to promising practices that will be identified in the field, and lessons learned that will be documented through monitoring and evaluation.
Well, just before we leave, Ghana's premier lottery company under NLA has recorded yet another big jackpot for this week. Here's more.
The company presented 2,000 Ghana cedis each to other 5 winners as its March draw. Ariku Martin Okudugu and one other 2,000 Ghana cedi winner expressed their joy to Joy Business.
Now that I've won, I believe that it is real.
I guess about 50 Ghana cedis tickets. That was about 10 tickets, and actually, I want the jackpot and 20,000 Ghana cedis.
Chit Akutubamfu, head of customer experience at *787# used the occasion to admonish Ghanaians to be part of the weekly draw.
This is real. All you have to do is to pick your phone and dial *787# to play, and you can win 2,000 Ghana cedis this very Saturday. So what would you wait for? Or why would you spend time to sit back? Just pick your phone now and dial *787#, and you can also change your life with a very big jackpot this very Saturday.
That's how we end business for this edition. We're back after 8. I'm Charles Aite.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Prime with me, Oriku Wampofu. I'm sure you're watching with a big smile on your face, and that's because Ghana has secured qualification to the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations following a 1-1 draw against South Africa at the FMB Stadium. Now, this came after one round of games left to play, and Ajax midfielder Kudus Mohammed put the Black Stars ahead with a brilliant goal, and then Percy Tau equaled for the Bafana minutes later. Well, Ghana secure qualification to the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations next year with one round of matches still to play. But let's look at Group C in terms of how things stand. There was a bit of confusion in terms of who qualifies and who doesn't, and just a clarification that it is head-to-head when it comes to the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. So not goal different, and Ghana beating South Africa 2-0 at home and then drawing 1-1 means that they have a better head-to-head than the Bafana. And then remember, Ghana also beat Sudan 2-0 but lost 1-0. So that's a 2-1 aggregate scoreline, meaning that Ghana also has a better head-to-head than Sudan. Sudan-South Africa face off in the last game. No matter what happens there, Ghana would still qualify regardless of the result the last match between Ghana and then Sao Tome here in Accra. But let's now look at the qualified teams for the Africa Cup of Nations. Today has been a very dramatic one. We know that Comoros have also joined a host of teams. And for Comoros Island, they become the second smallest country to ever qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations. It's the first time in their history as well. Gambia also is the first time in their history that they're qualifying to the Africa Cup of Nations. Aubameyang's Gabon also qualify. You can see Ghana there. Mohamed Salah's Egypt also in the list. Remember, Cameroon are already there by virtue of being host. Mali, Algeria also already there. And then we have Guinea, Senegal, Tunisia, and Burkina Faso. So interestingly, that's just halfway there in terms of the teams that we'll be seeing in Cameroon next year. We've done 12 qualified so far, 12 more spots up for grab, and we'll be giving you updates on that as we do go along and the qualifiers do unfold. But let's still stick with Ghana football. And CK Akono himself just won, but it came off the back of a dramatic period for him. Now, a lot of people, this suggests that his relationship with Keto Kreku did have some issues, with people even going as far as suggesting that Keto Kreku suggested some names in the Black Star squad. But Keto Kreku has responded to this, stating that although they differ in how they handle issues, that's not a justification for a frosty relationship between him and the Black Stars coach.
Oh, what question is that? I have, first of all, I'm the leader of the football family. I'm the leader of the executive committee of the FA. The ESCO makes appointments, and that includes appointment of coaches for all our national teams. If the ESCO is not happy with any coach, the coach will not be at post. Once the coach is at post, it means the ESCO, led by my good self, have a healthy working relationship with the coach. If you are involved in the business of football, rumors and wrong perspectives, people trying to read other minds, which is scientifically impossible, always comes into play. I mean, if I don't believe in Charles Akono as the head trainer of our Blasters, obviously I'll convince my ESCO into coming along with me that he's not the right guy. Charles Akono is our coach. We have to support him to be successful. I trust him. Just like any other person, we may differ in the way we think things has to be done, but once he's there, means I trust him. And I will support Charles Akono to bring back the love to Ghanaian people. Just like I have trusted Abdul Karim Muzito.
Well, that was Keto Kreku there, clarifying the situation between himself and Sika Akono, who just qualified the Black Stars to the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations. In the second belt, we'll be bringing you more reactions from that game as well. My name is Ore Kuampofo, and see you when the sports comes again.
Time for showbiz. And Becky Bex is here. Hello, Bex.
Hello to you, Izzy. How you doing?
I'm well. You're glowing.
Oh, thank you. What's that supposed to mean, though? People say that when you're glowing, it means that you've had sex the other day.
No.
I don't know why people.
Okay. Let's go on.
So I don't want to glow in that way.
Okay, let's
glowing
go.
Beautifully on the Prime. So it's Thursday. We're throwing back on Kofi Jama.
All right.
So I met him back in 2019, and we had a conversation about his music. He came all the way from Kumasi, and he told me that he thinks that coming down to Accra is the way, out for his music career. He spoke a lot. Let's take a look at that interview. I'll tell you what he's up to next.
Before that, it was a couple of mixtapes and a couple of singles too. But now I'm on a new label. I'm on a new label. So yeah, we are starting things all over.
What's the name of the label?
God One Records.
God One Records. And you've been able to release like how many songs? Two songs.
Yeah.
Do we have a video?
Yeah. All two of them.
Tell me about those songs.
The first song was Roll On.
Roll On.
Yeah.
And what inspired that song?
It was a hip hop. It was a type of a hip hop joint. And it was inspired by me listening to the likes of those old school hip hop joints. So it was a feel. I just wanted to have a signature when coming into the industry.
Apart from music, what else do you do?
I'm a musician.
That's all?
Yeah.
Wow. Then it means that, I mean, you have a lot for this music industry.
Okay, so we threw back to that interview, but we also threw back to a photo of you or a video of you back then.
But won't talk about that.
No.
You know, fast forward.
Yeah, what's he been up to?
He is like a superstar now. He is the star, or he composed the Ekoso song.
Okay.
I'm not sure you've heard that song. Like he's like a global sensation. I'm telling you. Today, he had a conversation with my colleague Ibrahim Bembako, and he wants to be the president in the future. Yes, to just to inspire the younger generation that, see, we can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to allow the older people to take over the
reins of government.
Yeah, but he can do it. We wish him all the best.
Apparently, you're saying when it comes to drill music, himself and
Yao Tog and the rest of the Kumasi crew, they are like on top. So I think you should watch out for some of the things that he'll be coming up with. But 3 Music Awards is this weekend, and there's a huge conversation around it for those of us who don't know what, or still don't know what 3 Music Awards is about. Here is like the whole comedy industry having a conversation about 3 Music Awards, which is set to happen this weekend. So on Saturday...
But this is what happens. The guy was sleeping. Why do you go wake him up?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're easy, when you're sleeping and I walk up to you and I tell you to tell me about some music awards.
That's it for Showbiz. Thank you very much, Bex, for bringing us Showbiz. Up next, we bring you World News. On My Joy Online, where there are a lot more stories there. We have a number of stories you can go read. The top story, Akufo-Addo must take action on Joy News gold smuggling expose. That's Dr. Manteau. And Rastafarian boy and siblings refuse admission to some SHS's Get 6 scholarships. And welfare of Kaya top on government agenda. That's according to Ken Oforiatta. And policeman jailed 10 years for extortion. And that'll be all for those of you who are watching on Joy Prime. But there's more news on the Joy News channel. Stay tuned in. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Education Minister Dr. Yao Educhum says Ghana Education Service will soon roll out comprehensive guidelines for schools in the admission of prospective SHS students. The Ghana Education Service, according to him, is meeting all the relevant stakeholders to realize this objective. This was in response to an urgent question by MP for North Tong constituency Samuel Okujo-Tuablakwa criticizing authorities of Achimota School for denying a 17-year-old boy enrollment at the school on grounds of his dreadlocks. He questions how one's hairstyle can determine a person's character.
Mr. Speaker, Article 28(4) is emphatic. No child shall be deprived by any other person of medical treatment, education, or any other social or economic benefit by reason only of religious or other beliefs. These constitutional imperatives, together with our enviable status as the first country in the world to ratify the Treaty on the Convention of the Rights of the Child on 5th February 1990, impose an obligation on all of us to be circumspect in fashioning out policies, rules, and guidelines that, if proper care is not taken, could undermine or be injurious to the well-being and the rights of the child. Mr. Speaker, it is also trite knowledge that various educational institutions at all levels strive to maintain discipline by adopting a code of conduct school rules, or general do's and don'ts to regulate the school environment? Why is it that we do not take issue when our teenage female students wear wigs, but we immediately get alarmed if they decide to wear dreadlocks or treat their natural hair in any form or shape they please? If I may ask, how does your hairstyle determine the content of your character? Mr. Speaker, we must also be more honest to admit that though the current debate has been triggered by the plight of the two Rastafarian students, other minorities such as Muslims, traditionalists, and atheists have faced and continue to grapple with severe discrimination in our school system.
In the views of the first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osei-Owusu, Rastafarianism includes the smoking of marijuana.
But I also get worried about the attempt to rope in Rastafarianism as a religion. If we do, then we complicate the matters for the young man. The reason is this. If you study Rastafarianism, it involves the smoking of weed. It includes the smoking of weed. And weed is an illegal substance. It is not a substance that is permitted to be smoked. So, indeed, if you recall, in this house, one of the persons that have been brought before this house for contempt of parliament was one person claiming to be a Rastafarian who was on air and said that members of parliament smoke weed. He was brought in this house, he was put before the privileges committee, and he was found guilty of contempt of parliament. He was brought here and he was made to apologize and told to go and say no more in this house. Now, I think that references to religion and so on may complicate the matter for the young man. If you looked at it from the way of the point of view of, does Achimota School have the right to prescribe a way of dressing appearance for its school, including hairstyle? If you look at it plainly from that point of view, we can discuss the matter across board. And I hold no opinion on that one.
In his response, Education Minister Dr. Yao Edwichuma assured that his ministry is on top of issues and consultations are ongoing to resolve them.
Mr. Speaker, I can assure you that Ghana Education Service, within the shortest possible time, is going to lay out specific guidelines for head of schools as to how we proceed in this environment. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that meetings have been had, others are ongoing, the ministry facilitating to make sure that our students operate in an environment where they give up their best, not just to themselves but to this nation. Mr. President, is about ensuring that education becomes that vehicle for socio-economic transformation, and that Ghana competes just like any country in this world. That is what has preoccupied us at the Ministry of Education, that we can bring the President's vision into reality.
She wants to move beggars from the streets and wants to become a journalist. That's not all. She also wants to change the perception that once you have a disability, the option is to beg. These are the aspirations of Jennifer, a visually impaired girl whose story has gone viral after she was filmed frying Gary. She tells Esina Mose she has accepted her misfortune. Let's now go to the community of Odotom and introduce you to Jennifer.
Can you work with a knife and fire with your eyes closed? Meet Jennifer, who became visually impaired at age 7. Abandoned by her father, Jennifer lives in the village of Odotom in the eastern region with her mother. The light in her eyes started dimming at age 6 and has not been lit again.
Became blind, I think glaucoma, and so we actually went to the eye checkup and stuff at Emmanuel Eye Clinic, and I was operated on the first day, and everything went well. But I was a kid then, and I couldn't just understand the reason why all of a sudden you start losing your eyesight and stuff. So the following day, doctor said, so I had to do another surgery in Colombo. Since then, I don't know, my eyeballs just decided to, go inside, so I couldn't even open my eyes normally again, and it was that.
Jennifer has had to deal with stigma, even from those she calls family.
Most people in my family feels like my mom, it's a taboo to have a person with visually impairment, and so this girl can't do anything. And so yeah, I'm always being referred here as a child because they feel like everything that's supposed to do for myself, somebody always does it for me. Even a family member said, I'd rather die than having a child like you.
She's currently in Form 2 at Okwapiman Senior High School and is determined to become a renowned journalist and an advocate for persons with disability.
I really want to move beggars from the street into workers. I want to change that concept that once you are a person with disability, you have no option than to go to the street and beg.
She tells us about her friend Benedicta, who's been forced out of school.
She lives in Asokori Mountain, Kumasi. The lady can sing like something. And all of a sudden, this lady stopped coming to school. When you go to YouTube and you type, "My situation cannot stop me," you find her songs plenty. And they have denied the lady access to good education. She lives in the house with them and she now sings in the market. I will be so proud if I will be able to get Benedicta entry back to school for the blind.
Jennifer says her mother struggles a lot, so she helps with her gari processing business to make ends meet. 6 days a week, 4:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. She's able to detect a well-cooked gari by the sound it makes and the scent it diffuses.
The sound changes, the scent, and then how it feels like. So when I hold this one, I know that it's not yet gari.
She enjoys the lighter side of life. She loves entertainment.
So Hits FM does entertainment all day. So you listen from Daybreak Hit to Mr. Hagler to Hit News at 1 to the afternoon definition, Mercury Quay, the Dawn, Isiwiti. Oh God, what? You like Hits? Dr. Pound. I love Hits. I love entertainment.
Jennifer is appealing to government to equip her senior high school with special teaching and learning materials since she and her visually impaired colleagues are unable to learn mathematics and science, which are both core subjects.
She has quite a story, Jennifer, there. That's Antihino Tumfosetu to the second says technocrats at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources hold the key to the fight against illegal mining. He says the new Sector Minister Samuel Abu Jinapor can only achieve much if he gets the needed support from his staff. Nani Aljima has more in the following report.
For over a decade, illegal mining, leading to destruction of the environment, has bedeviled the country. The Asantehene described as alarming the spate of illegal mining in the country. He believes with the needed training, the community mining system instituted by the government can ensure sustainable mining.
San wardrobe hono no wanya GDS akola obetumi aye adwuma nampa our pamfo nyina ka ho so mo panyina ede na mama no ntimi warehye mo se mo bedi no kure na mo de aboa na ma adwuma na yeye kam no anso e bompa de o mampanyina se Sakolay, one and I hear Juman Mohun and him, dear, and they were Pejano said, Jumakasi, say, oh, mayor. Say, Juma, dear, Shans, a Ghana Mamba Koswa. And they see if you're Bruchy and Crawford Fessica by a head, they are senior good year, and a bit Yamagana Mayakosi. Tia, yet there, a Ghana Maya 7 year, quite a bit fast one, as a some beshish, Galamse, no beco. A small scale mine and I as a more movie. Say, yes, she sent ye to 2 year palm, just you on between ye. I'm a naye. No, so we at 2 year training my woman here, and you don't say, every one quiet be fast. Or be so persuade Nessica Bay Jumaya as some. Ghana, hey, I'll be persuade Nessica Jumaya as some. A good year was here will be persuaded by an answer Mohonanam. I would do Pienia forestry for in Nia, ye be chose, ye be drea sebra, nebro, profocasa by climate change in Nin answer more months of Mosa. Said the Bayer Manson named Tawantobia Mancrata, some say dear Siama Win and Cratano, Yen Yenu, Ninas Moano. Seven fans are seven. Say, being a crata, Basabia Media, was in our land commission. And Maria decisions as a seminar at Mohammed. Decisions as some good going on, and as I focus, yes, I account. And I also who say a dear Shannon son, a Juma Cassia bet me so ye the year Bemagana Coso near the answer. No, you are the sheriff Macassia. Oh, yeah, bet my boy. That's who bet me upon for in a between a boy. Momoano, Montwin Edgeman.
Asantehene made the remark when the Minister for Land and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, paid a courtesy call on him at the Misha Palace in Kumasi. The minister reiterated the government's commitment to protect the country's natural resources.
Omampani ahye me se me nante Ghana fa na bebia ono mu office ho on time tena ho ono so de bia onenam na o se adwuma na o de ahye me nsa na ese me a me kọ Ghana fa na bebia akọhwe senia adwuma ne tie na me fa mani nko hu na me bise hu na regional minister aka lands and natural resources ebeka Ghana man mu nyina nsase ene ade anyankopon e de ache Ghana man a sebin produce we are santiman free ma enye yi santiman di mu akotene pa te tosu me na ese me di kan na me ne me mpanyifo ye ba santiman mu ha na ye be di nkita ho fa nsase ene de yankopon e de amayen.
The minister, as part of his 2-day tour of the Ashanti region, visited staff of the Lands Commission and players in forestry industry. Nanaya Ojimes report for Joy News.
The new KGTM market have given managers of the facility a 2-week ultimatum to address the unusual upsurge in the electricity bills. Over 7,000 stores depend on a single metering system. Charges are billed among the traders, irrespective of consumption. The traders are demanding separate meters to manage the individual power consumption. Lava Firms Emmanuel say reports.
The traders lament the high cost of electricity bills over the months. They have complained to the authorities without any solutions. Some of them say their shops are locked up when they fail to pay the bills on time.
The bills are too high and we cannot pay. Every shop should have its meter.
Even those on the tabletops in this market pay an amount. I don't even use electricity. The bills are very high.
Why are the shops closed when we owe electricity bills instead of disconnecting the source? They should address our situation, else we will demonstrate.
Nana Kwesi Prempeh speaks for the traders.
We are calling on the authorities because we, the leadership, have already taken a step. We've gone to ECG. They said it is feasible that individual shops can get meter. So we don't know the reason why either the board or management have not given the approval for the company to provide us individual meters because the cost of electricity is very high in the market. Also, we talk about service charges. The service charges comprises of garbage, cleaning, security, and fumigation. Of all the companies, the charges that they are charging with the traders are very high. And we were not part of the negotiation team that contracted these companies to come and give their rendering service to us.
The traders are also raising concerns with flooding, roof leakages, choked drains and non-functional elevators at the market. Nana Prempeh says the lack of public address system at the market has affected effective communication between management and traders.
We want the city authorities to let us know what the contractor is doing within the next second phase, because it is this same contractor who constructed KJTR. He did the shoddy work. That's why we are calling on the city authorities that with regards to the second phase, if it is this same contractor who is going to work on the second phase, authorities, those concerned, should look into the activities of the contractor. For what we are experiencing here is an eyesore, and if we have our way, and just as I've told you, in the coming days, people are going to hear from us.
Managing Director of the KJTR City Markets Limited, Kofi Dufour, says the plight of the traders will soon be addressed.
Some have been dealt with. As we speak now, the lifts are working. The extractors are working. They are functional. When the fumes have accumulated over the place, you need to turn on the extractor. That's why the extractor is there. You turn it on, it takes away the fumes, and everybody is okay. Everybody has acknowledged. But provisions were made for each shop to have its own meter. The authorities could not get us 7,000 meters at a go. You and I know that in this country, if you're looking for 1 meter for your house, you know what you go through. And we've promised them. We are putting our credibility on the line. By the end of April, the contract would have been signed, and whoever is supposed to start work would begin to work.
Reporting for Joy News, Emmanuel Osei, Kumasi.
The Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Police Service has described as alarming the number of deaths involving motorbikes in the first 2 months of the year. According to the department, of the 517 road traffic deaths recorded in January and February of this year, more than 200 involved persons riding motorcycles. Traffic camera footage obtained by Joy News shows one of such road crashes involving a motorcyclist. Viewers are warned the footage could be disturbing, and so viewer discretion for the next minute is advised. The National Ambulance Service has finally dispatched an EMT driver to man the only ambulance at the Siwa in the Bosomu-Freho district of the Ashanti region. This follows a Joy News report that highlighted how the people of the area are having to rely on taxis and motorbikes to transport critically ill patients to hospitals due to the absence of an EMT officer to drive the new ambulance allocated to the district. We bring you Prince Apia's report on the plight of the people of Siwa.
Bosomu-Freho district benefited from the government's distribution of ambulances 2 years ago, but the ambulance is yet to be put to use. Residents say the use of the ambulance could have helped save preventable diseases.
Anytime there's an emergency, we find it difficult conveying the sick to the hospital unless you find a taxi.
Often
the person dies as a result because the ambulance is left idle. If the ambulance has no use, they should return it. 2 people from this district opted for a chance to drive the ambulance, but they were denied.
Well, the Ashanti Regional Director of the National Ambulance Service, Somik Dut, after that report, says an EMT driver has been dispatched to the station.
When this issue popped up, actually my CEO have to come in, and then they've been able to get somebody from outside the region and posted a person to the region to, because the problem actually is about the EMT drivers. Okay, so we should have a minimum of 3 EMTs drivers who will be manning one station, because we do 24/7. We don't close.
The service is currently running 41 stations in the region with a staff of 17. This acute shortage of personnel is blamed for the inefficiency of the service in the region. Mr. Dut assured that the service was completing the training of additional personnel to fill the gap.
So we told them that we had a challenge with the personnel. So after I talked with you, with the 17 stations we were operating before, we used the same personnel to open 41 stations that we are running with. So those stations that were not ready by then because they needed to give us offices and office accommodation actually. So those who were ready, we have to open them. We opened up to 41, and that was the limit, our stretch that we could get to. So some of them called it, and we told them that we are not training the EMTs who can man these ambulances because it's just not any other person who can be used to man the ambulance. You need to go through the training with, even if you are a driver and you have much experience, you still need to go through training for minimum of 1 year. That is about 12 months. So we told them that anytime they need an ambulance or they have an emergency, they can always call on our control room. We have other districts that are close by. Konongo is there. What's the name? Ejisu is there, and then that of Kuntenasi is also close. So when they call, then we can dispatch ambulance to attend to them as we train these people. As I talk with you, we have the trainees who are even some are at the hospital attachment and some are also at ambulance attachment. So
the 2019-2020 KNUST pensioners have petitioned the university authorities over alleged unlawful ex gratia deductions. The pensioners are claiming authorities deducted 17.5% from senior staff, 10% from junior staff, and 25% from senior members from their ex gratia without their consent. They are therefore imploring the university authorities and all those who matter to stop any further deductions and refund all monies illegally deducted from the ex-workers without delay before Monday, March 29, 2021, or face their wrath. Mahmoud Mohamed Noordain reports.
We want the whole world to hear that the way they made the deduction to us is unlawful. So government, if really it is government who has asked them to tax, it should come out to tell us why. Because parliamentarians work for 4 years and come out with 4 billion. They never tax them. Somebody has worked for 42 years and the fellow may not even get 1 billion. And you are taxing the person 70.5%, 10%, 25%. Is it realistic? Is it fair? That is our problem.
It is a signed agreement by management, government and union. And since the inception of the ex gratia, no deduction had been made so far until 2019-2020, whereby 15%, 17.5% from junior staff.
Over 150 pensioners affected are raising red flags over what they describe as deliberate and inhuman deduction. Akonobeng Philip is the leader of the pensioners.
We, the members of NUST 2019-2020 pensioners, are unhappy about the unlawful deduction of 17.5% from senior staff, 10% from junior staff, and 25% from senior members from our ex gratia without our consent. We are therefore imploring the authorities of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, NUST, and all those who matter to stop any further deductions and refund all monies that are illegally deducted from our ex gratia without any delay before Monday, March 29, 2021, or face our wrath. The pensioners, comprising over 150 people, are raising red flags over what we describe as deliberate and inhuman deductions aimed at extorting us to aggravate our dire situation.
The pensioners say they have provided all material proof after a meeting with the Vice Chancellor, Professor Rita Akosia Dixon, and the Registrar to the Finance Office of the institution. According to Mr. Philip, the leadership of the university has turned deaf ear to their call.
What makes us more furious is the internal memo issued by management that the money is a gift, but not ex gratia, as it has been in many years. We have provided all material proof after we had a meeting with the Vice Chancellor, Professor Mrs. Rita Akosua-Dixon, Registrar, including the Finance Officer of the institution, Mr. Yanimo Bafo, and his related partners for a refund, but the leadership of NUS has turned deaf ears to our call. Legal action. We will take legal action against the university if the university fails to refund our due monies with immediate effect, because we are fed up with the vile promises.
A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
And it's now time for business. Kosi Yanke-Aye, the Executive Director of the Ghana Enterprise Agency, who represented the Trade Minister, has welcomed the support and said the government, through the Ghana Enterprise Agency, has disbursed funds, out of which 80% went to vulnerable women. This was through the COVID-19 alleviation program.
Our informal sector is huge, and majority of them are women. So I think someone had mentioned there are so many women in business. The truth is they are all in the informal business. And it's about time that our interventions and the work we do move them from the informal sector to a more formalized and sustained sector, so that when challenges such as the COVID-19 pandemic occur, they can still be resilient and stand tall. Businesses, especially MSMEs, women and girls, have been impacted. More women are working from home. More women had to give up what they had to do. So it's really important for us to be here to share and discuss what it is that these programs hope and intend to do for all of us. In keeping our focus on women and to leverage on government's flagship programs implemented by the government of Ghana through the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the government helped to alleviate the plight of Ghanaians after and during COVID. They rolled out the Coronavirus Alleviation Program. Unfortunately, the National Board for Small-Scale Industries, which is now Ghana Enterprises Agency, led the charge to actually support businesses across the nation. This was a Herculean task. And one day, I'm sure we'll get to share that story. But in all, we had over 900,000 applicants. Close to 60% of them were women. 80% were in the informal sector. And there was a conscious effort from our side to also ensure that the women in the informal sector were included, because that is the economy, whether we like it or not. Out of the almost 300,000 people we have disbursed to, 69% of them were women. Our interventions consistently focus on women empowerment. In the past 3 years since I took up office, out of the 230,000 beneficiaries we supported with business support across our 185 business advisory centers in all the regions of this nation, close to 60% of them are women. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that if women are to make a full contribution, we will stand tall and would actually really master the Industrial Revolution, the fourth one that everyone talks about.
Well, the 4 projects are targeted at Ghanaian women from specific urban, peri-urban and rural areas in the 8 regions of the country. Away from that, the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research is pushing for expenditure tracking measures to help check budget overruns. Government over the years has ended each financial year spending far more than what it mobilized in revenue for. This means that in a huge budget deficit, which affects funding for capital projects and priority sectors, there is trouble. But speaking at ISA's 2021 budget review, Director Professor Pisakorte noted that this move will help value for money and cut wasteful expenditure.
Programs or initiatives. And there's also one thing we need to do, that we protect the public purse. We guard and ensure that there is value for money for whatever spending that is being undertaken. So you and I, we are going to be watchdogs. If you see misapplication of funds, we need to draw the authorities' attention to it, the media especially. We are all here. We need to police, track some of this spending and ensure that we get value for money for whatever we pay for. We are going to, you and I are paying for the taxes, we are going to pay for most of these activities, and therefore ought to ensure that the monies are used for the intended purpose. If that happens, there is certainly going to be positive net effect.
Well, there is growing agitation from Anglo-Gold Ashanti to relinquish part of their concession to small-scale miners at Obuasi. In 2016, Anglo-Gold voluntarily relinquished 60% of its Obuasi mine concession to the government. But at a meeting with the Minister for Land and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, the small-scale miners asked for additional land to be released them. Nana Yaojima joined a tour with the minister and has filed this report.
According to the small-scale miners, only miners in the Adanse and Amansia communities benefited from Anglo-Gold's concession release. They are currently pointing at the Abompe and a tailing site as priority areas of interest. Leader of the miners, Kofi Adams, says access to neglected lands by Anglo-Gold is key to providing employment for the youth. We want the company to give us part of the places we've mentioned, and that will help create employment. The relinquished concession is rich in minerals, but not enough to attract multinational investment. Anglo-Gold is currently operating 30% of the 475 square concession. Managing Director Eric Esubontin explains the need to protect the remaining concession.
If we chip at the remaining 30%, then we are chipping away at the very viability and future of the business. One area of concern regarding that is the agitations we are starting to pick up, even if informally, that some elements are trying to push for an area called Abompe, which is within the 30%, as well as some old tailings facility that we guard very closely to be given out to them. And we've told our stakeholders on numerous occasions that area is a no-go area. It's a red line. Tailings are not things we want to play with. It's close to the community, anything can happen. But at the same time, it forms part of our plans.
Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, at separate meetings with managers of Anglo-Gold Ashanti and the small-scale miners, called for calm as solution is sought. I will plead for calm. Just exercise restraint and count on me. The Minerals Commission Chief Executive is here, and together we will look into the issue and find a solution.
Minerals Commission, association Anglo-Gold. Na asumdue ebeye adwuma na obia ni beje no.
Mr. Jinapo is on a 2-day working visit to the Ashanti region. For Joy News, Nana Yaojima reporting.
Now, did you know that regular soybean intake may alleviate the symptoms of menopause and even reduce your risk of prostate and breast cancer? Well, in Ghana, the mention of soybean directs the mind of poultry, directs your mind actually to poultry and aquaculture. Hence, it's consumed on a very small scale. Joy Business Odilia Ntiamwa engages Solomon Mariam, Country Director for Plan International, and talks about investing in soybeans farming, especially among female farmers. Here's more.
We're actually planning to reach to 12,641 women. And the reason why the launch was delayed is because of COVID. In the case of Plan International Ghana, we actually started the program a year ago. So as a coincidence, we're actually having our first program review for the first year, while also planning for the next year tomorrow afternoon. So it has already started. But of course, with COVID, there's been a lot of implications in terms of our ability to sit together like this and to have a face-to-face engagement like we had today.
You said it's been a year, so what would you say has been the impact so far, especially for these women? cowpea takes, soya takes how long to grow? Have they started harvesting? Is this within this 1 year already? Are they seeing the fruits of this project?
You know, when you start implementing this size of a program, there is a lot of startup process. So from the time that we were notified that we were one of the successful grantees, we've actually spent time in terms of identifying who our partners would be and who our beneficiaries would be. Because we don't start a program and start it immediately. You know, there is the identification of beneficiary process, then the hiring of staff. We do have a very competent Ghanaian who is actually going to manage this program. So that's basically where we've spent the majority of the time. But where you see significant impact in any grant is actually from the first and second and third year. And that's basically where we are putting significant investment on.
You may want to catch the full interview as well as get to know how soybean is processed into other marketable products. Tune in to join us on Saturday at 6 p.m. and repeat is done on Tuesday at 2:30. That's it for business. Sport is up next. Just stay.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the second part of the sports segment with me, Oreku Ampofo. In the first segment, we looked at the Black Stars who have secured qualification to next year's Africa Cup of Nations following a 1-1 draw with South Africa. And in case you missed the highlights, Mohamed Kudus gave the Ghana team the lead in the second half, and just a couple of minutes later, Percy Tau equalized for South Africa. But that's it in terms of the results. Let's now take a look as to how the players were rated according to the Joy Sports team. And just like how we always do it, each player was rated out of 10 based on their performance on the game. The highest rated is Mohamed Kudus. Also, Ghana would be at the Africa Cup of Nations next year. But let's now move to Manchester, and where Ghana's powerlifting team are getting ready, and it actually did get off underway today. The Black Optimists of Ghana are hopeful of winning medals and securing qualification to this summer's Paralympic Games in Tokyo, Japan. Here's a report by Joy Sports' Asari Bidiakov.
Female powerlifters Vida Entry and Patricia Nyameche will compete in the 67 kg category, while Emmanuel Nitetoku and Haruna Tahiru compete in the male 72 kg and 107 kg categories, respectively. This year's Manchester Powerlifting World Cup, which got underway on Thursday, serves as qualification to the Summer Paralympic Games in Tokyo, Japan. Head coach of the Black Optimist, Prince Nyako, has told Joy Sports Team Ghana is poised for action.
Myself and the team, we are much ready. And as you said, the minister asked us to bring glory, to bring medal to Ghana. We should make Ghana proud. That is our target for now. And I mean, the athletes are well determined. Everybody has been able to make the qualification standard before we even came here. So we are 100% sure. I mean, we are going to qualify. All we need is good lift, and we are ready for that. All we need is good lift, and we are good to go.
Male powerlifter Emmanuel Nitetoku is confident Team Ghana will live up to expectations.
Since we came due to the COVID test, we've not been able to have enough time to train. We only had 1 day to train, but I don't think it has really brings our spirit down. We'll still keep the fire burning. We'll do everything possible to make us achieve our goals. I think it's been so good so far, and we'll do our best. So Ghana should expect more from us.
The national powerlifting team won a bronze medal in last year's edition of the tournament.
As the venue and the match gets closer, we'll be getting you the details of the venue and where the match would be taking place and all that. But before we go, let's revisit the match ratings that we did show you concerning Ghana's match against South Africa. Now, despite securing qualification to the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations, it wasn't such a good performance by the Black Stars, with Kudus being the only shining light from the POW. And then we had Kwame Poku, who was subbed off at halftime after a poor performance on the left wing. He was The lowest rated player, remember, is out of 10. And Mohamed Kudus topping there because of his goal. Well, in case you do not agree with the ratings, you can go to the Joy Sports handle on Twitter or Facebook. You can find the ratings there. Let us know what numbers the players do deserve. That's how we wrap up the sport here. My name is Oreko Ampofo.
We wrap up the bulletin here on Joy News Prime. I'm Israel. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.